Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening. We're just going to take a moment here and acknowledge the discovery of the unmarked graves of 215 children in Kamloops Residential School. And we here at Delayed Offside think it's important for us to take this time to acknowledge, but also to listen and to enhance the voices of those who have suffered through these tragedies and make this history part of our known collective here. So now's the time for us as podcasters, as people, as citizens of this country to kind of listen, take note, and learn more and be allies as much as we can. So, with that, we're going to take this moment in solidarity with that. Welcome to this episode of Delayed Offside. This is a very special post-game episode. Now, this has become a popular event here at Delayed Offside, which is to capture one fan's post-game reactions right now, where they're still in the I don't know, the sweat of it, or they're still rolling in the filth of defeat. Last week, you saw me covered in disgrace, throwing around there, looking around, taking barrage after barrage from these tough panel. And today, it's
my
Ryan's
turn.
turn.
It's my turn
to face the squad. Well, he wears a
take
John
my
Tavares
medicine.
Jersey. Now everyone's got to take their time, I guess, in the gauntlet. And Sanjay was the first one to fold. Adam and I very quickly after. But now, not long. Looking back as he laughed, Ryan's turn to kind of take his licks. So let's talk about this Game 7 results between the Leafs and the Habs. If I was to say to you at the start of this series, $100, what is your bet how this series would end up? What had you said? Do you remember your predictions?
Nope. Yeah, I said Leafs in 5.
I don't even know what I said.
You took Canadiens.
You took Canadiens as
a 2 for 2.
Yeah. Adam took Canadiens originally and then said he was just joking and switched to Leafs. I don't remember what you took, Baron.
I took the Leafs, and we have to establish that Adam is very good at making predictions. He told us that. We could never let that go because he's very good at making predictions.
Some sixth sense.
I believe that I do believe that when the Oilers were down 3-0 in the series, Adam predicted that they were going to come back. So you can take that down to
positivity. I need that positivity today, Adam. Yeah. Feed me some positivity.
I would like to draw the attention to Ryan's screen here. You can see the dark shadowing is kind of echoing the actual. This is not because of the light. This is his aura. It's just darkening the entire room right now. It's a very sad place to be. And I think
I know you guys gave me a lot of trouble when the Flames didn't make the playoffs, but I had the most fun in the playoffs out of everyone here.
Yes, you did. Yeah. You didn't have to go through pain. You've already been through it.
There you go.
Let's break down the series, or do we want to just focus specifically on the game? Like, what do we think we want to talk about the most here?
Well,
all right, let's start with the series. Right away, the Habs kind of won game 1, which I think came out as a shock, but that probably a little bit came off the loss of the captain, John Tavares, in what was probably one of the hardest hockey things I've ever seen in my life in terms of like how it made me physically feel. However, after that, the Maple Leafs rallied for 3 straight wins and looked like they had a clear run to the second round. And all of a sudden, things kind of started changing and slipping away. You started noticing the Montreal Canadiens were playing a little bit harder. They're actually having more chances. They were getting goals. A lot of these things went to overtime, but they were able to capitalize in those overtimes. And that was something we weren't seeing from the Leafs. So Ryan, what are your thoughts here right now at the series, how this broke down? What did you see happen to your team?
Oh man, I honestly don't know. Like I'm still in shock. Like it honestly feels like I'm in a bad dream right now. And I keep thinking if I pinch myself, I'm going to wake up. In a lot of ways, before the series began, Adam said the Leafs' worst enemy is going to be the Leafs. And really, I feel that that's what happened. Like you said, they were up 3-1. They were looking dominant. None of those games ever looked like they were in jeopardy at all. And then it just felt like they took their foot off the pedal. And I don't want to discredit the Canadiens at all. And I'll credit them later on here. But they didn't show up in all 3 elimination games to start the game. They let the Montreal Canadiens run roughshod over them, and then they had to make their comebacks. And I just don't understand. I don't understand how they continue to do this, how they cannot close out these final games and finish off teams. And I mean, that's a big reason why they brought in these veterans like Joe Thornton and Wayne Simmons and Jason Spezza. Like, they brought them in to provide this leadership, like, so that this stuff wouldn't happen anymore.
You
And
forgot Big Save Dave. You brought him in too.
What's that?
You forgot Dave Riddich. You guys brought in Big Save Dave to help.
I'm sure he's providing lots of leadership. Oh man, I honestly, it's just such a Leafs thing. You know, like, they outdid themselves. You know, it wasn't bad enough that they've been up 3-1 in a game and blow it. Now, you know, they had to be up 3-1 in the series and blow it. You know, I don't know. And like, games 5 and 6, when they sent it to overtime, they had all the momentum. And especially in game 6, they dominated that overtime period. And I really thought they had it in the bag, and they still found ways to lose. And again, with them beating themselves, making really dumb mistakes, really bad errors, and then the Canadiens capitalized on them. You know, like I said, I will have to give Montreal credit. I thought, especially today, but overall in this series, very aggressive forecheckers, very hard hitting, very tight defensively. They did not give the Leafs very much space out there. And then when the Leafs were able to get a shot on net, you know, Price was there usually to stop it. You know, they played a very, very hard game, and some of the Leafs struggled with that. But man, I don't know. Like, I really thought when they went to game 7, I really thought, like, you know what's happening? They're setting up this perfect story of how this team looks like they're once again going to lose it and that they can't finish it out. But nope, they're going to slay the dragon. They're going to break the curse. And then they're going to go on this like great run because the monkey's off their back. But no, like, once again, the big boys were all silent. Like, no, nothing from Marner, nothing from Matthews. So I don't know. Congrats, so Montreal Canadiens.
Well, let's be honest. It wasn't a monkey. It's now a gorilla.
That thing's growing. That thing's growing. What the heck did I see? It was like, this team had lost these guys had lost like 7 clinching games now in the playoffs straight.
Right.
So this is worse than the 3-1 collapse to Boston. This is worse than the loss to David Ayres. Like, this is honestly right now the lowest moment as a Leafs fan for me, because this was supposed to be the year. Like, I didn't think they were going to win the Stanley Cup. I don't think they were a favorite. I think they had a chance, but they should have gotten out of the North. They should have done it, and they didn't.
Right. I think, like, you make a point here, which is that when you have a team and your team is playing, you're always looking for positive growth. So last year, Sanjay's team made the playoffs, and they lost out against, who did they play in the first round?
Dallas.
They lost out to Dallas, who went all the way to the Cup. Last year, the Oilers technically were in the relegation round, even though that they would have been a playoff team had COVID not happened, but so be it. So this year was like, they made the playoffs, great, but the real goal was to get out of the first round, and they didn't. For the Leafs, they've been in that first round, like, what's what I'm looking for here, purgatory for essentially a while now. And it wasn't just they need to make it to the next round, although that was a huge goal for this team. It was they need to get out of the North and move on. They were looking very far ahead. So I was going to ask you where you think this loss stacks up, but you've already said that. I guess the question becomes, like, when did you know, as a fan, when did you know it was done? Like, for me, I knew game 2, when the Oilers were down 2-0 in the series, I was like, that's looking really bad. And after they blew that third game, I was like, it doesn't matter, they're done. So I knew by third game the Oilers were out. But when did you, during this game, know it was over? Did you have an inkling early, or was it
after the first period I was worried. I was really worried because they went into the second tied at 0, and I really felt that Matthews and Marner would explode in this game, and they hadn't generated anything in the first. I don't even think Matthews or Marner had a shot in the first period. And Montreal dominated play throughout that first period. They outshot the Leafs. The Leafs just did not have any space out there whatsoever. I mean, they were playing fairly well defensively too, but I was nervous after that first. And then as soon as the Habs got a goal, I don't know. I don't want to say I gave up because it's only like a 1-0 lead, but it just wasn't looking good. Like the Leafs were playing like they did throughout most of the game in Game 6, where either they were, crumbling under the nerves, or they let Montreal believe, and also Montreal got energized and the Leafs couldn't match that energy. Like, I don't know what was going on out there, but it honestly, like, you watch the first 4 games of the series and then the final 3, and it's complete night and day difference. Complete night and day difference for the most part. Like, I mean, the Leafs, like I said, dominated in that overtime period in Game 6. They really came back in Game 5 as well and started dominating play. But, most of the series before that, it was all Leafs, and they just took their foot off the pedal, and they have no one to blame but themselves.
Hockey is a funny game. Like, these Leafs, not to always go back to the Flames, but they kind of remind me of the Flames in the 90s, where, they won the Stanley Cup in 89. They had great regular seasons every single year, but they would lose in the first round all the time. Like, from 90, they didn't win a playoff series from 1990 until 2004. And the weird thing is, so everyone in Calgary blamed the players. And if you remember back at that time, the US dollar was like, the Canadian dollar was like way down against the US dollar. So Calgary couldn't compete. So they traded away all their star players because they thought, okay, well, let's rebuild. But those star players went out and had tremendous careers outside of Calgary. Like, they had Joe Nundyk win the Conn Smythe Trophy with Dallas. The 2 years before that, Mike Vernon won the Conn Smythe Trophy with Detroit. And these were players that everyone in Calgary said they can't win in the playoffs. They can't win in the playoffs. They can't win in the playoffs. Are you worried that the Leafs are going to take the same lessons and be like, these players can't win in the playoffs, ship them out, only to see them have great success with other teams?
I honestly don't know where they should
You
go from
sound
here.
so sad. It's like,
Well, and it's just
so
like
Oh, it's so
it's
frustrating.
one of those
I know.
things where I honestly don't like. That's the problem. Is every year I've been able to look at the team and say, this is what they need to do. So, I would say that's 3 years in a row that they've lost the first round series where I thought overall they were the better team, but found ways to lose. Year number 1, I thought, what, they need to get rid of Babcock. Babcock was making stupid coaching decisions. Get rid of him. This team is going to succeed. They did that the next year. After last year, I thought, okay, this team needs to get better defensively. Then they brought in TJ Brody. They brought in Zach Bogosian. I thought they needed to get grittier. They brought in Wayne Simmons. They brought in Nick Foligno. They brought in, they need to be better for forwards defensively as well. They brought in guys like Riley Nash. They need more character. They brought in Joe Thornton. This team had 2 of the top 5 point getters in the league. This team had a Rocket Richard winner. This team was the deepest defensively and the best defensively they've been in 20 years. They've finally got elite goaltending from Jack Campbell. Their depth. I mean, I didn't think they had the scoring depth that they had in the past, but the bottom 6 were really good at shutting down opponents. So it's just a different kind of bottom 6, and they were grittier and they were willing to hit and block shots a bit more than they were in the past. Maybe not to the level of like a Montreal or a Winnipeg. But I really thought this team was better built for the playoffs. I really don't know where they go from here. Like, my head says like, okay, if you trade like a Mitch Marner, because that's who everyone is throwing under the bus right now.
Right. Because it was Nylander before, and now it's like, get Marner out of here. It's
because Nylander played amazing this playoffs. He was the only guy to show up.
Nylander was the best
Jason
Leaf.
Spezza.
He was, for sure.
And Kerfoot played well. Like, there's a few guys who played really well, and the defense for the most part played really well, and Campbell. But in terms of forwards, Matthews and Marner are the the guys who didn't show up, and they're your superstars. And Marner's the one who's getting thrown on the bus on social media. And in my head, I'm like, okay, are you really going to trade away a guy who was top 5 in points this year? How are you going to win that trade? Like, most times you don't win that kind of trade. And then on the other hand, I'm like, well, like, how many chances do you give this core before you actually really shake things up?
Okay, I think that's a great point. So let's focus on that question for everyone. So your core here, your big core, is Matthews, who signed, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, right?
Yep.
You have to pay
Riley in there.
Well, I would imagine he's part of that core, but I don't know if he's part of the big 4.
Right.
And you're now at how many years has this team underperformed? And I don't know that maybe that's an unfair statement in the fact that maybe the the fan base and the media pressure on them is much higher than it probably should be, given the age of the group. But like, when is it time to say enough is enough? Now, there's a lot of conversation. Like, I sent you guys a tweet now. It's from Adam Wild, and Adam Wild's a really big Leaf supporter, right? Like, he's constantly everything Leaf. And he said flat out, Kyle Dubas put together a great team this year, and his 2 best players have ghosted him in the series. We deserve better. He deserves better. If they can't miraculously come back, the changes will be volcanic. And like, the fan base is pissed, and they are angry, but you got to ask the question, is it time to change things up? And I'll make a couple other points on stuff here as it goes, because there's a lot to delve into, but like, Twitter is hateful today. It is full of angry takes, but it's also full of a lot of information about how things went. I think Dom from The Athletic, who you often cite, Ryan, pointed out in his projections there was a 1.4% chance, I think it was, that the Leafs would lose in the opening round, and they lost, And I think that shows what Sanjay said. Like, hockey's a game of luck, and some stuff here. Like, so here goes to the other point I want to make, because this is another tweet that I think is relevant to this piece of information that we're going to talk about with the core. But I just want to give you this information so that you have it. So this is from Jay Fresh. This series was the encapsulation of the risk of the Leafs' top-heavy cap structure. 11 million star gets hurt. It exposes the lack of depth. Other 10.9 stars, a no-show, exposes the lack of depth. Top 4 left D gets hurt, exposed by lack of depth. And then I said, these problems could happen for any team, but because the Leafs have placed so much on the shoulders of those 10.9 plus players and invested so much of their cap in them, it hit them extra hard. So do you agree with that statement? Is it that this team is built too top heavy? Do they need to make a change with this core? And if so, what do they move? And we'll go to non-Leaf fan Adam and Sanjay first, and give Ryan time to contemplate that.
Drink.
Yeah.
I'll let you go first, Adam.
Well, it's interesting. You hear how unhappy Jack Eichel is in Buffalo, and do you shake it up that much? Like, do you find someone to move? I looked at the cap-friendly list of unrestricted free agents, and lots coming off the books there. Is he a fit? That's where my head kind of goes. But then again, you kind of think
you're gonna lock 50 million on 5 players.
Well, would it surprise you?
Yes.
I don't think they could fit another 10 plus million. Like, if they were going
they'd ship someone out,
they would have to ship like Marner back.
Right. And that's the guy that they're talking about right now. Right. So I don't know. It's a hot take, guys. It's just a hot take. Okay.
I think Toronto, you look at a team like Colorado who's doing really well, and look at all their stars and all their salary that they're signed to. Like, a McKinnon is making ridiculously low amount for his value. Cale Makar is still on his entry-level contract. And sometimes, you got to get that luck. Colorado got it, and Toronto doesn't. So right now they are very top-heavy, and with the salary cap not looking to grow in the next couple of years, people are projecting, would Toronto be better served trading a Marner for high draft picks and maybe going that route and getting a top 5 draft pick, getting a player that you can put into the lineup right away, make entry-level deal, and then kind of get some supplementary pieces with that 11 million? If you're a New Jersey or a Detroit, and you're looking to kind of kickstart your rebuild, would you trade a first and maybe a couple firsts and some salary back? I don't know. I think that's something that they got to look at. At this point, you can't throw anything away. You got to look at everything.
Yeah, it is interesting with that luck aspect of it too, in terms of the first two playoff losses, no one really expected the Leafs to win. They were huge underdogs against Washington. They were huge underdogs against Boston, and technically they were underdogs against Boston that second time around as well. Although I personally thought they could beat them, and I thought they outplayed them. Last year and this year were the two years in a row now where they've lost, where they were the favorites to win. So really, it's 2 years in a row where they've really disappointed and not got past the first round. Is 2 times in a row the time now to blow it up, or do you go for 3 strikes? I'm not too sure. And, like I said, you look at every single round and there's always excuses, and they're decent excuses as to how this team lost. So like I said, that year against Boston, Kadri got suspended, Babcock made stupid decisions. Columbus last year, they lost Muzzin to injury, and Columbus got insane, wicked goaltending, and the Leafs couldn't score. This year, they lost Muzzin, they lost Tavares, they lost Foligno. I think Nash was playing hurt. And Price played
hurt, yeah.
Yeah, like Nash wasn't himself. And Price made some stellar saves as well. I don't think they got goaltended like they did last year, but he definitely made some key saves for that team.
Excuse me.
When is excuses not acceptable? When is it that, okay, you know what, enough of the excuses, it's time to win? I'm almost at that point. And like I said, on one hand, I look at how good this team was throughout the regular season, how impressive they were, how consistent they were. Do you blow it up with the off chance that they just ran out of luck again? And next year, maybe they'll actually have some pucks bounce their way and they won't get injuries to key players, and then they'll go on this magical run. Do you chance it? Or do you say, you know what? 2 losses to teams that we should have beaten. No, now it's time to blow it up. I honestly don't know which way to go. Like in some ways, I almost think, is this the time? You think about the Raptors when they won their title, right? They traded a very good player in DeMar DeRozan. They traded him away, and fans were flabbergasted. Like, they loved him, and he was their best player. How could you trade him away? But they had failed in the playoffs enough times that Masai Ujiri realized that team was not going to get them to the championship, and he decided to make that big move. I'm not sure if this is the time to do it yet or not. I'm not sure. But at some point, they're going to have to do something.
Well, the scary thing for the Leafs is next year the divisions change back, and they're with Tampa Bay and Boston. So it's not going to get any easier. Nope. This was the easiest chance they had to win a round, in my opinion.
This was the best chance they had to at least get to the semifinals.
Florida looks good too in that division.
Florida looks good. Tampa's a monster. Boston's a monster. They didn't have like I said, I don't think the Canadian division was the weakest division in the league, but you didn't have those powerhouses. Like, I wouldn't even put the Leafs this year into that upper echelon of powerhouses like Colorado and Vegas, Boston, Tampa. I didn't think they were quite at that level yet, but I still thought they were a step above the rest of the teams in the North. They should have done it, and they didn't. And I don't know why.
So if we're not blowing it up, let's say we're not blowing it up, let's talk what tweaks can be made. So are you looking to move a player out, either a Nylander, who fans have hated, but has actually been your best playoff player? Or what other changes? Or are you looking like a coaching change? Like honestly, because there's no reason Keefe to be out coached. And I don't know that he was. I think he ran into a hot goaltender.
Well, but I mean, you look at that power play, and that was just abysmal.
Yeah, I don't know the head coach does not run the power play.
No, but I'm not saying Keefe. Keefe is fresh. Like, he's like a brand new head coach. He's gonna, he just got hired. Like, I don't see him being canned. Like, maybe Malhotra gets the boot. I don't know. if you're not going to blow up the core, like the only reason you would trade Nylander is because he's the easiest contract to move, but he could
also give you a return too.
He gives you fantastic return for 6.9 mil. Like if you're going to trade someone from the core, to be honest, it's probably going to be Marner. I would almost prefer you trade Tavares potentially because of that contract's going to look ugly in a few years, but he has a no movement clause. He has a no trade clause. So I don't see that happening. So then you're looking at the big
pajamas
two.
Did he have as a kid? We got to find out where he'll go to.
So you look at the big two. I don't think you trade Matthews. He's your best player, and he just won the Rocket. Like you probably trade Marner. But if you're not going to blow up the core, if you're going to give it one last kick at the can and go for strike three, hopefully not strike three with this group, then what moves are you looking at? Like, originally I would have said get rid of Kerfoot and bring in a solid third line center, but he actually showed up in the playoffs. So I'm not hating it if they bring him back. I mean, definitely get rid of Jumbo. Like I think they brought on too many old guys, and they weren't contributing. Spezza did, but I mean, the rest of the guys, they were just too old and slow in the playoffs, and they weren't contributing,
So this is interesting that you make this point, which was, and I'm going to go find it right now, but some of the analytics, and I don't know if I'm ever saying his name right, like Jeff Allette, he kind of made point on here that they had pointed out that a lot of the signings, Simmons, Bogosian, were actually signings that hurt the team negatively in the sense that they were actually analytically really poor choices. Right. And so when people are saying, well, you can't build an analytics team, they're saying, well, Dubas didn't actually do an analytics team this year. He went away from that. Do you think it's those moves? Like you've said, it's those moves of those old people like Joe Thornton. Like I have to think that the reason the power play wasn't good is that Joe Thornton was promised the power play all year, and that no one would just be like, you know what, Joe, it's the playoffs, it's not going well, sit for a couple games. Like, because there was no reason.
He should have been sat out of the lineup. Like what was he? I love Joe, and I thought he looked really good at the beginning of the season and near the end of the regular season. But other than that one goal he got on the power play where he really Spezza did all the work, what did he do?
This also just came in, which was the Columbus Blue Jackets traded Riley Nash to the Leafs for a 7th round pick in 2022. The condition on it is that he played 25% of the games, it would become a 6th round. Nash played 2 out of 7, and so now it's a 6th round pick. That's something else there too.
6th round isn't like, that's such a crapshoot. If you pick a player out of the 6th round, then you're really
John Marino, drafted by the Oilers, traded to the Penguins. 6th rounder.
All right, well, now let's go over all the 6th rounders and see how many of them make it.
And you miss out on John Marino. That's you're talking about. You want to start.
Another guy that we haven't really discussed is Morgan Riley. I thought he played really well, but his contract's coming up next year. Is he a legit number one? Like your stud number one two-way defenseman that a lot of teams rely on, like a Victor Hedman, to take them to the championship. I'm not sure if he's that guy. He's really, really good, but I'm not sure.
I don't think they have the cap space to go out and get a number one like a Victor Hedman or someone, right? Like
if you blow up the core, like if you trade
Dougie Hamilton's available, right?
Dougie Hamilton's
like that'd be great. I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see which way Dubas goes with this, if he decides to go for it one more time, or if he now realizes, okay, I made a mistake here with giving these 4 guys this much of the cap.
Well, to quote Sum 41, you're in too deep and you're trying to keep all the blood in your head instead of going under. And I think the problem is like you've made them like he's committed to this. But at the end of this, if he rolls the dice on this team one more year, whatever, packs the bottom lineup with other guys, maybe better veterans, I imagine this basically signals Joe Thornton's gone. If they plug it with other veterans, or even better analytic veterans, how do I say this? If they don't go anywhere next year, you have to imagine Dubas is done.
Yeah.
Like not even just like this group is done, but like Dubas is done.
I'm not even opposed to signing veterans, like who scored for Montreal today? Corey Perry, a veteran that's playing on the fourth line. So, they do have value, but
his numbers in Game 7 are ridiculous. Something like 2 goals and 4 points.
And I believe
Or
Perry
assists,
wanted to come to Toronto, but we took Thornton instead.
Well, I mean, wouldn't you?
Originally, I would have said yes, but
I mean, Corey Perry was sat this year. Like, he missed out on games all the time.
But playoffs are a different animal, man, and they play into his hands.
I do want to talk about this a bit, which is I don't know if you guys watched the post game at all, but Jack Campbell was hard on himself and taking the blame for it. He said it was the first goal was the worst goal of his career. It happened in a Game 7, and it's unacceptable. And I'm just reading it as it goes. I think the team counts on me to be better, and I know I could be a lot better than that. So I'm going to.
Ain't your fault, Campbell.
You
played amazing. You had a better save percentage than Carey Price in these playoffs, man. It wasn't your fault, not at all. None of the blame goes at Campbell's feet. He kept them in the game last game, and really for a lot of this game too.
So this is something that's probably going to come up a bit later, but given the cap space that they have, which is not a lot, and given some of the people that they have to sign, what's the plan here? Like, are they going to let Anderson go? Are they going to try to replace him with someone, or are they? Or do you think they're going to be able to sign Hyman?
I hope so. Like, they're going to save $5 million on Anderson. So I'm hoping they can use some of that savings to be able to keep Hyman. I'd hate to lose Hyman. There's another guy that the Leafs, he started playing, like, he wasn't himself either this series for most of it anyways. Like, he was coming back from an injury. But I would hope I'm sure they're going to try everything they can to keep Hyman. He's a very important piece to this Leafs organization. Any line that he was on got better.
I get what Adam was doing now, tapping his hat.
Yeah. He'll be an Oiler next year.
Wow. So does that mean Nuge is going to be a Leaf?
No, they have enough cap space to sign both.
Oilers have tons of cap space this offseason. Tons of cap space.
It's kind of nuts. But like, I would imagine, like, I think the truth is this has got to settle for a bit. This entire thing has got to settle, and then they got to look at stuff and make changes. I think your easy change is that Joe's probably not back. I think Spezza made a hell of a case that he's still got something in his tank.
And like, for how much longer? Like, I would bring him back again. Absolutely.
Right. But on a 1-year deal, he doesn't cost
1-year deal. Yeah. But like, is he going to be the Jason Spezza we got this year? Who knows? Probably, like, maybe not, but I'd still bring him back and try. I think you start injecting some more youth, like Nick Robertson, throw him in there. Rasmus Sandin, he looked pretty good for the amount of times we got to see him, even though he made some blunders. He made some blunders, but he's young. No, okay, here's the thing. He looked really, really good. And then Keefe pulled him for Dermott just to give Dermott a game. And then the next game, he made all those blunders. And I honestly wonder if it kind of messed with him a bit that he got pulled. Like, he's like, I have to do something amazing here to show the coach that, like, he needs to keep me in. And he tried to do too much. I don't know. Like, he's still young. Like, that's the thing. When you're a young defenseman, you're going to make mistakes. And the other unfortunate thing was he was hurt a lot of this year. He didn't get into a lot of games. They played Lettinen and Dermott over him for most of the season. He didn't play a lot. And so he was kind of thrust into the playoffs with very little in-game experience this year. So, mistakes are going to happen. But I tell you, that power play looked, I mean, even though it was abysmal, like ridiculously abysmal, it looked better with him at the point instead of Riley.
Well, I think it's time, unless you guys really want to expand on this anymore. I think we can probably.
We've been on the Leafs quite a bit.
Yeah. So, and like I said, it's already, your dark aura is already depressing me a little bit. So we're gonna try to move on. Now, since none of us have anything left to care about in hockey, pretty much, this is our last episode. No, I'm kidding.
No,
but we're going to talk about some other stuff here. Let's preview the second round of the playoffs. And I think we're going to start here with the North Division. So I'll cut there to our man, our Arnie Pie in the sky, the
Mike.
Montreal Canadiens versus the Winnipeg Jets. The head-to-head series was 3-3 for the Montreal Canadiens and 6-3. You have to look at this and think, man, oh man, this is going to be a goaltending battle of epic proportions. Hellebuyck, who sported one hell of a playoff record, and Carey Price. One of the interesting things coming out of this was, and this was on the Jason Greger show, and I don't have the exact stats, but it was that generally the team that goes 7 games in a series, when they play a game that's a team that's swept, has generally done better in the next series, which means that the Canadiens would actually be the team more likely to win over the Winnipeg Jets.
Interesting.
Both these teams were the bottom 2 teams in the North in terms of playoffs, not an actual bottom.
That was us.
but it raises an interesting point here about the style and the type of hockey that goes. Now the Jets are probably way stronger on forward, way worse on defense, and once again I would argue in goaltending the Jets are probably stronger than the Canadiens at this point. What say you to the Battle of the North?
I'm going to say that this is going to go 7, and I'm going to say the Jets come out on top.
I agree with pretty much everything you said, Baron, in terms of who's stronger on offense, defense, and goaltending. I don't care. I'll say the Jets. Jets will take this in 6. It is interesting though that the team that goes 7 does better. Maybe it's just because the team that's been sitting for so long comes in rusty. But I think, I think Hellebuyck is just unbelievable at stopping the puck. I mean, their defense is a bit suspect, but their offense is a lot more dangerous than Montreal's. So I'll go with the Jets in 6.
It's throughout that lineup. You got Ehlers back. Like he alone, it was scary. Every time he shot on the Oilers, I was like, kind of like Kyle Connor, Lowry back. Like it, I think their forward depth is a bit better.
I expect this to be like a low scoring series, like a hard hitting, gritty, shot blocking, nothing going through, like 20 shots a game for each team type of series.
Is that boring? Is that boring hockey?
For me, I
series?
think it's going to be a bit boring, but I think the power play for the Jets is where the fun will happen. And they do have a deadly power play. And I think that's, where they'll get the job done.
Sanjay?
I was going to go Jets, but last time we all took one team, the other team won both times. So I'm going to go Montreal on this. I think they're battle tested. Carey Price, I'll take him over Hellebuyck. It's going to be close. I think Hellebuck's a tremendous goalie. But, you add in Tyler Toffoli. He's, a scoring machine. They got Cole Caulfield in there. And I think they'll lose game 1 just because it's so close to this game. But I think they'll take the series in 6.
I'll go with the Jets, and I'm going to go with the Jets in 6, and I'm going to say kind of similar idea there. I think the rest is actually going to probably hurt the Jets to kind of get their stride back at first. And if you looked at I think it's a very different series than the last one where it's not the same type of styles being played, but I think it's going to be a low scoring, low opportunity series. And I do think the Jets just are going to out-depth them as it goes, and Jets in 6. We're going to go to our second round here. Sorry, just got cat hair floating around everywhere, which is Avalanche versus Golden Knights. Now, this series is already underway, and despite there being a 4-3-1 to a 4-4 record, the Avalanche literally had their way with the Golden Knights. Now, there was a little bit of controversy in this one in a couple of ways. One, that the Golden Knights actually started Robin Lehner over Marc-Andre Fleury. And apparently that has to do with the fact that in the last couple of games, Marc-Andre Fleury's performance has been dipping basically because of the workload. And so it was kind of one of those give the other guy a shot like we usually do and go. And at the same time, Ryan Reeves makes a decision that puts his team down for like 8 minutes, and the Avalanche feasted on this. You're seeing playoff Nathan MacKinnon, who is potentially probably the best playoff performer in the NHL. Realistically, like he is. And hopefully, I think we're going to get a chance to see him against Marc-Andre Fleury, the best playoff goalie right now in the NHL. What say you?
I can't believe Vegas went away from Fleury. He just won a game 7. This isn't the regular season. You stick with your starter. I don't understand the reasoning behind it. I don't care how old he is. This is the playoffs. You fight through that. Like, you put in Robin Lehner. Yeah, he's a good goalie. What happened? Colorado took advantage of that because he's been sitting on the bench for the whole series. Like, what were you thinking? And just for that, I got to go Colorado in like 5 because, as good as we praise Vegas, they've had playoff troubles. Like, they had trouble with Vancouver, took them to 7. Vancouver took them to 7. Minnesota took them to 7. They lost to Dallas, and I don't think they're going to get through Colorado. And I'm going to take Colorado in 5 for this.
I'm going to go the opposite direction just because it was such an abysmal game last night. Doesn't really mean anything, Marc-Andre Fleury is going to take that second sword out of his back, and he's going to be able to battle back. Yeah. I think Vegas takes them to 7, and Vegas wins in 7. I think Vegas has just a better team overall than Colorado. The thing that is going to put Colorado over the top, though, is Landeskog and McKinnon, and they are scary entities,
and
just
Rantanen,
like Barron said. And Rantanen, but really,
and Cale Makar
going up the most. It's McKinnon and Landeskog. Landeskog's been a machine too. So,
man, I think Cale Makar is like the best defenseman in the NHL right now.
Agreed.
Yeah,
100%.
He's so good. I think both these teams are fantastic teams. In a lot of ways, they both could be considered the Stanley Cup favorites. This could almost be considered the Stanley Cup final in a lot of ways. I'm sure Tampa would have something to say about that. But the one thing I said about this matchup in our midseason picks was I predicted Colorado over Vegas because Vegas's power play was so abysmal. And it struggled all season. It's still struggling in the playoffs. And I still think that could be the difference is, both these teams are great at 5-on-5, but I think Colorado is going to win the special teams battle. And you just saw in that first game, their power play's incredible and Vegas can't match it. So I think Colorado in 6.
I'm going to go Colorado in 5, and I'm going to take Sanjay's reasoning, which is this team has struggled to score, not just this last series, but the previous couple. The fact that they could barely get by Vancouver and Thatcher Demko, they have been struggling to score ever since, and their lead scorers aren't necessarily always healthy. I think it's interesting because Vegas had so much depth off the start, more than we ever thought that they did. And I feel like some of the moves they've done to make that jump a little better have actually kind of whittled away at them. And now they're in tight to the cap. Now the cap isn't an issue, but during the regular season, you can't construct a roster that'll make you better, right? Like, it's not like Tampa, who sat, 20 million worth of guys out and filled those spots. They're locked into it. And I think they're going to struggle against an offensive dynamo. And yeah, I think it's going to be a quicker series than people want. And even the fact that the Lehner played, if they go back to Fleury, you're already down a game, and it doesn't take much to lose momentum. So I'm going to say Colorado in 5. All right, let's jump to the next series. I don't know why I stopped talking there.
Dramatic pause.
Jump to the next series. Hurricane versus Lightning. Now, this is an interesting matchup because I think both these teams are very heavy Stanley Cup favorites. Hurricanes having a tremendous season, and same with Tampa Bay, actually kind of sneaking in. Like, the team that's in the playoffs for Tampa is a much stronger team than the team that played throughout the regular series. Mm-hmm. The Hurricanes are coming off a series that's much different. They played against a very stingy and stagnant Nashville team that put up a hell of a goaltending defense against them. And the Lightning are going to come back with a lot more offensive punch. So I don't know if you can really use the regular season, but I mean, the fact that you look at that 5-on-5 goals against per 60 with first for the Lightning or Hurricanes. That is a hell of an accomplishment. And if you watch the videos of the Hurricanes, Rod Brind'Amour has this team fired. They are fired up. They play for each other. And I think you're going to see things from this team that were the lessons the Lightning learned, which was, your stars are going to have to take shots. You can't win with just Ferraris. They're built, but I don't know if they're ready for the Lightning. This Lightning team scares me. So it's going to be interesting. Let's start with Sanjay's thoughts.
It's funny because listening to you talk, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to take the Hurricanes. And then when you ended, you're like, well, maybe I should take the Lightning now.
I think it would be great. I think it would be great
either way.
It would be great for Carolina to go all the way to the end. Honestly, it's tough to bet against the Lightning.
Yeah, it's true. I'm going to go Hurricanes. I just can never cheer for the Lightning. And I think Florida, if they had better goaltending, would have taken that series. And I think Carolina does have good goaltending. And I know they lost game 1, but I think they're going to rebound. And I think this will go long. I'm going to go Carolina in 7.
I agree. I think Carolina is going to take this series as well. I'm going to go Carolina in 6. And it's simply because of that, buy-in that the whole team seems to have with Rod Brind'Amour as their coach. You see, they're doing the storm surge again. They brought that back. They seem to really be pumped to play for one another and not really give a crap about what anyone else thinks about that team throughout the NHL. So I think I'm taking the Hurricanes in 6.
We all picked Florida to win the last round, and I was shocked by that. And here we go. We're all picking Carolina because I have Carolina in 7. But I struggled with this one. I think we picked against the Lightning last round because there were so many question marks with their team coming into the playoffs. What would Kucherov be like? How healthy is Hedman? There's not those questions anymore. Like Kucherov, I don't know if he's still leading the playoffs in points at this point, but he was. Hedman, Stamkos, Killorn were all up in there on the top 10 after the first round. But you know what? This Hurricanes team, they're no slouch. It's, Aho's on fire, and their defense is so deep. And it was already mentioned that Florida actually really outplayed Tampa that first round, but they just didn't get the goaltending. Their goaltending fell apart. If Carolina can do that to them, they have the goaltending to also back them up. But I think this is going to be a huge battle, and I'm going for Carolina in 7. But once again, I am uncertain by that pick.
I'll be the dissenting voice on this one. I think the way the Lightning have things going, they've been there before. Carolina has played these games. They've gotten pretty far, but they haven't gotten all the way, at least not with this group. And I think the Lightning have that memory and the fact that they have such stars coming back fully healthy. I know Hedman's a little bit injured and stuff, but I just think the Lightning have that little extra bit to kind of push past Carolina here. So I'm going to go the Lightning in 7.
It's funny. You walked out with a full 9-iron held into the storm sky, hoping to be hit by some lightning, huh? You were in the eye of the hurricane, huh?
Maybe, but I think lightning's going to strike and the hurricane's going to blow.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good.
All right, to our final matchup here, which is the perennial Toronto Leaf Killers, the Boston Bruins. We don't have to worry about that this year, though, so no big deal. Versus the defensive, I hate fun hockey, New York Islanders. That's an interesting matchup in the sense that the Bruins record is not that great against the Islanders, 2-3-2. But I think this was prior to the trade deadline. So essentially the Bruins have had a lot more offense since then. And I think that this team is going to make it. It's an interesting matchup because I think the Bruins are a better team than Pittsburgh. Well, essentially the fact that they're in the second round and Pittsburgh isn't. And I'm interested to see how the Islanders match up today. If you didn't pay attention, the series is now tied up 1-1 with the Islanders coming back in overtime, helping me cash my parlay. Thank you very much. And And it's going to be that chance there. This is also known to the Oilers fans as the Eberle versus Hall Bowl, as picks we've traded away for less returns are playing each other in a higher seed of playoffs. Anyways, who started first the last two times? Who hasn't started first yet? Let them go.
I'll go first, I guess. I'm going to take the New York Islanders. They're playing a complete team defense game, and that's worked for Trotz, and he's won a Stanley Cup with it. And I think that's going to put them over the edge, but it's going to be a slight edge. So I'm going to say this series is going to go to 7 games, and it's not taking anything away from the Bruins. The Bruins have a powerhouse line on that number 1 line with, Brad Marchand, Pasternak and Patrice Bergeron. So I don't know if it's enough against the Islanders in that team defense. So I'm going Islanders.
After Washington came out strong in their series against Boston really took over and eventually just dominated Washington. They were very, very impressive. The Islanders, meanwhile, we talked about their lack of offense going into the playoffs at the end of the regular season. They found it in those playoffs. But I wonder how much of that is because of their offensive capabilities and how much of it was because of Tristan Jarry. Can they, be that offensively dynamic in this series against Boston? I think they're going to have a lot tougher time scoring against Boston with their goaltending and defense. But I do think this is going to be another tough battle. I think this could go 7 games, but I'll give the edge to Boston.
Yeah, I'm also going to go Boston, and I think Taylor Hall is going to be the X factor here. Bringing him in at the deadline, he already showed in the first round what he can bring, and I just think they have too much depth to compete with for the Islanders to compete with them. And I know the Islanders play really good team defense, but I think Boston just kind of wears you down, and I think they're going to take it in 6.
Everything Sanjay said.
Perfect.
Yeah, that concludes our second round matchup. I was like, what round are we in? I don't even know. Second round matchup. We're going to cap it off, I think, today. Well, we had a couple different things actually here. I'll go with this one as part of the next question because I don't really have an answer to it. But we're going to do the Be a GM segment. So I ask questions, some specific to teams, some specific to the NHL, some specific to anything in general. Ryan just did the swallow thing because he's just they're going to talk about the Leafs again.
I think we talked about the Leafs enough.
Oh, if you think it's enough now, buddy, you turn on Sportsnet. And
honestly,
tomorrow.
I just want to turn off Twitter. I want to turn off Sportsnet, The Athletic, any sort of sports news, and just pretend this never happened.
I assume The Athletic is imploding right now.
Oh,
and
I'm sure.
I think Leafs lunch will also be an interesting segment. I might actually listen to that, see what O-Dog says. He's just going to crap all over them on overdrive. But we're going to do the Be a GM segment. I'm just going to give a pause second here for our boy Adam. So we'll give it a second. I don't know if you want to flash it or something.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Just trying to give you time there. Okay, so we're gonna have some questions. Like I said, some centered on teams, some not. We're gonna go with that. Everyone give your opinion, state your reason why, and then move on. First question: if you were the Edmonton Oilers, should you resign Ryan Nugent-Hopkins? Why or why not? Start with Ryan Pilon.
Depends for how much. I would sign him in the fact that he's one of their legit top 6 forwards, and they need more of those. And I thought he played pretty well, but again, it just depends on how much he wants.
Sanjay?
No, you need a first line winger to play with McDavid and Draisaitl, and he's shown that he can't produce with them. So I would use that money elsewhere and help improve the team.
I say yes at a discounted price, a little less than what he's making now with the flat cap. And you play him where he is really good, and that is at center. And you put him either on that second line or the third line. And it's okay if he's on the third line. Then you've got a better balance of,
Is he taking a pay cut if he goes and plays on the third line?
I think he's taking a pay cut.
But why would he? I think the market's out there where he could get more than he's getting now.
I don't think he produced at the rate at which people thought he was going to. He didn't play as well as he has in the past for Edmonton this year. And I honestly think that was a detriment to his ability to getting more money. I think if he does get more money, it's slight.
I'm a subject. I think if he goes to market, he will get more money, but he will not go to a playoff team. That's my thoughts.
He's going to Buffalo, baby.
Buffalo, Ottawa needs a second line center. Columbus needs a top line center. Like there's lots of teams that are going to look for a center. And Nugent Hopkins has played top line before. Not saying that he is, but he has played it.
And he wants to play center.
He's a good second line center. Like I think he's a bit of his element on the first line there. He'd be a tremendous third line center, but I just don't see him taking a pay cut to do that.
You can't pay a third line center $6 million.
No.
Or like even $5 million. So
no,
that's
a third line center, you're getting paid like what, like $3 million? Somewhere
he was
there.
He was no case. He was a fine second line left wing. He just didn't always play. The Oilers have a ton of cap space this year. This is the last Oilers question. They have a ton of cap space this year, but there's also Ken Holland in his media availability stated that a buyout is an option. If you were the Oilers, would you buy out Mikko Koskinen, who has 1 year left at $4.5 million, or James Neal, who has 3 years left at like 5.7? Let's go with Adam. Or both. You can say both.
Yeah, this is a tough question, but I think James Neal has a little more to give in terms of that lower lineup production, and even on that power play, he's decent. We didn't see a great James Neal this season, and that's simply because of the effects of COVID and what that had on him. In the last part of I'd say the last 6 games of the season, he was flying and he was producing, he was scoring. I think you keep him, and maybe you hope Seattle takes him in the expansion draft, and you buy out Koskinen. It's tough because he played well with them last year when he split the crease with Mike Smith, but this year, especially late in the year, like when you need him to be on, he is off. It's not good. He's the first goaltender in years and years and years that had the first 4 goals in the game scored on him. That's not acceptable as a goaltender in the NHL. And I think the Oilers need to explore better options in goal and maybe let Stalock pop up.
Sanjay?
Yeah, I would buy out Koskinen. I think his contract is way too high for the value he provides. And I might even throw in a sweetener for Seattle to take James Neal because his contract isn't that great, and it gives the Oilers a lot of flexibility. They're kind of in a win now mode, so I would even throw in like a third round. Well, oh wait, you guys don't have a third round this year, but maybe like your third round next year to get rid of James Neal again.
Little shots from little people don't hurt. Go ahead there, Ryan.
They are going to buy out Koskinen, who will then proceed to sign with Minnesota and become a superstar.
Yeah.
I think they'll buy out both. That's my guess. Or they'll try to trade one and retain salary, but if not, then they'll buy out both because that will give them $30 million in cap space off this year.
How many buyouts can you do a year?
They have 2 buyout periods, so It just depends what you commit to. If you were the Maple Leafs, would you re-sign Hyman or Anderson? We already touched on this, but we'll go back to you, Ryan. Actually, let's go with Sanjay first because he hasn't had a chance to start.
Yeah, thank you. I would not re-sign Anderson. I thought Jack Campbell did a good job, and they have some other options for the backup. Hyman, yeah, I'd bring him back.
Yeah, you re-sign Hyman. Jack Campbell's your new number 1 starter, and you bring in a cheap backup or 1B option.
Hyman's tired of putting the team on his back in these situations and trying to produce and no one being able to finish for him. He's going to walk. He's had enough. He is going to go and play wing on the Oilers. And
because McDavid scores so much in the playoffs.
Hey, man.
He's got more points than Marner, though. You got to give him that.
Hi, man. Yeah. No, if I were in the Leafs' shoes, I would immediately re-sign Hyman or try to work out a deal with him, and you let Anderson walk.
Just in case you were wondering, the Toronto Maple Leafs have 12.5 in cap space for next season. So not terrible, to be honest with you. Back to the questions. What free agent would you sign if you could? Like, if there wasn't like a restriction on money, who off that free agent class this year would you grab? I'll go first and I'll take the easy one so that you can't have him. Dougie Hamilton. If I could have anyone off that free agent board automatically, I would take Dougie Hamilton. I think he is a great example of a player who is available, who automatically makes your team into one hell of a team. Calgary would know, but they didn't like him going to museums. So
hey, man, Lindholm is a good player. Okay. We didn't completely like lose that trade. I think we did okay.
Yeah, sure you did. Okay. What do you guys say? Who are you thinking of?
Where's the list?
You just search the free agent
we could pick anyone.
Adam. It's not like you would read the notes beforehand, Adam. Come on now.
We could pick anyone we want.
If you have any of the free agents right now, that's
and available. Cap hit doesn't matter and whatever.
Yeah.
I'll take Ovi. We need someone who can score on the damn power play. Just set him up at the top of the circle and feed him. Put Matthews on the other circle, feed him, and just go back and forth between the two and get that power play working. Damn it.
All right, I'll take Corey Perry just because I want to see Corey Perry and Matthew Tkachuk play on the same line against the Oilers. I think that would be gold.
My God, you love to watch your team flounder, don't you?
Just stabs them there.
Oh my God.
That was a good one, Adam.
Throw Lucic on that line. Oh, you got a beauty line there. Lucic.
One guy in the offensive zone, two guys trying to get out of their own end. Amazing.
The worst skating line in the NHL, but damn, they would be fun to watch.
Here's some shovels, boys. Come on out and start.
He's a Sutter player. Corey Perry's a Sutter player.
Yeah. Wow. Those are all really good. I like the Ovechkin one. I think we could use a heavy left wing with a scoring touch on the Oilers. I don't like the Perry take, although I think that's something that the Oilers could use. Dougie Hamilton, I'd take him all day. You know, I think on the reverse side of that, let's get a brother defensive duo and get Seth Jones on the Oilers. You know,
he's not a free agent. Like literally, like that's not the question. It's like he could have any free agent. No, he's got another year with Columbus. He won't resign with them. He's told them, but he's not a free agent.
Oh, okay. Well.
This is Ryan Getzlav.
Yeah,
I hope you don't edit that out and then someone sits there watching.
I probably won't, to be honest, because that's going to be hard to find. So
you know what? Okay, then you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say I really like what Hyman brought to the Leafs, and I'm going to stick to my guns and say bring him in to play left wing for the Oilers.
How many games suspension? We already know it's now that Ryan Reeves is getting suspended 2 games for his incident with, I think it was Graves that he threw down to the ice and put his knee on, which was my prediction in the group chat. 2 to 4 is what I said. How many games should he have got and why? Let's go with you, angry Leafs fan.
I don't think he should have gotten a fine. He should have gotten a $5,000 suspension or $5,000 fine.
There you go. That made more sense.
1,000 game suspension.
Are you gonna tip over out of your seat? Like, I'm worried about you. I really am. I've made sad. 2 wellness checks on Leafs fans.
I'm
today.
so sad. I don't know. The Department of Player Safety, we've talked about them enough. I can never figure out how they come up with these numbers. It's like they just pick a number out of a hat and that's what you get. So.
I'm gonna go 6. I think he should be gone for the rest of the series. I think Graves could have been seriously injured, and it was a bad play. And he had some shaky play against Minnesota last round with Suter. So 6 games gone for the series is what I would have done.
Adam?
Yeah, I'd say about 5. We just saw what happened to Nazem Kadri with 8, and you know, it is. There's a pendulum that's swinging, and it's almost like, you know, they're putting a blindfold on George Parros, spinning him around with a gun that's maybe got a bullet in it, maybe doesn't. And they're like, shoot anywhere in the room, George, whenever we say stop. And whatever he hits, there's like 5,000s all over. They're bigger targets. And then, like, you know, these little 8 targets on the wall. It's just a room littered. Everyone leaves the room and George is boom. Is that 5,000? 5,000.
Last question here for the night. Going into the expansion draft, Las Vegas has 2 goaltenders signed, Marc-Andre Fleury and Robin Lehner. Do you protect Fleury?
They don't have to protect anyone.
Oh,
that's right.
You're right. They don't have
They
to.
don't.
Yep,
no,
they're
their
exempt.
owner's not partaking in the
Wow.
expansion,
Exempt.
so they don't have to give up anyone.
Okay,
Wow,
this
that's-
question's pointless.
That's like my
now.
Seth Jones.
Thanks.
That's like my Seth
Yeah.
Jones.
I Adamed that question.
Yeah.
I really did. I Adamed my own question.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's change it up a little bit and do some salvage. If you are them, do you keep Fleury? Do you keep Lehner? Who does Vegas
Fleury.
keep moving forward?
You keep Fleury. Fleury's just been solid. Like, sure, he's got a little bit of injury problems. I think he is one of the greatest players of this past generation in terms of goaltending. He's been solid. He makes big game saves. He plays his heart out every game. You keep Fleury.
I don't know, but Leonard's 29 years old. He's got more of
Looks
a
like
future
he's
ahead of him.
45.
He's only 29.
Wow.
What are the chances Marc-Andre Fleury is ever going to have a season like this again? So I don't know. I think you take Leonard. He's a fantastic goalie and he's younger.
I'm going to go Fleury because you could get more for Leonard. You mentioned he's younger. You could probably trade him and you could get pieces to help your team around. And Vegas's cup window isn't forever. So I think you have a couple more kicks at the can with Fleury, and hopefully Leonard brings you in something that you can help get you over the hump.
That's not bad.
I don't
Leonard
remember.
go, Leonard go.
I don't remember what that thing I sent you guys in the group chat, which was that rating of the prospects here. And I'm not sure where Vegas's goaltending ranks out, but according to this list, Vegas's goaltending prospects are the worst in the NHL. So the fact that they have no future in goal right now, I think you have to trade Marc-Andre Fleury, because I do think he would still pull back. That would open up cap space. And essentially, you would have another goaltender that you could sign longer and give you some time to develop a goalie in your system. So I would say keep Leonard. And since the expansion draft rules are exempt, well, it doesn't really matter. They can do whatever the hell they want. Damn them all. All right.
They joined our division again, so we have to deal with them next year, unfortunately.
It's true. It's true. But that's the only team really that's, super, super scary.
And Seattle. Seattle's finishing second in that division.
I don't think so. There's not a Hall of Fame goaltender that they can grab in an expansion draft. Most teams aren't going to make the same trades where they're going to give up a bunch of good players so that you take another good player but leave a third good player. I think the landscape changed. Vegas scorched the earth for everyone, and I think it's going to be much harder for Seattle. What they're going to have is cap space, and they're going to be able to sign guys to plug the holes that they don't get from drafting. That's my thoughts anyways.
We'll wait and see.
You want to bet? I'm just kidding.
No one's beat Sanjay in a bet yet. We're running out of time.
Well, we're not going to know for a year from now anyway.
We'll forget about it, and then
just keep adding interest every year.
Sanjay,
to that
you
bet.
owe Baron $25 because of this.
Yeah, you owe him part of your DVD collection.
He's like, for this one bet, I picked up Pauly Shore is dead.
Yeah, he would. He probably owns it. Honestly,
I owned it.
If you really want to know what Sanjay's movie collection is like, download the app Tubi, because it has all the B movies you love. And Sanjay has quite a collection of B movies. He really does.
Hey, you know what? They're fun. They're fun.
They are.
There's
some are.
Some are, yeah.
Some are pretty rough. Chopping Mall is
a classic, man.
Chopping Mall was kind of rough.
What? It's like the best movie about killer robots in a shopping mall you've ever seen.
Second best. Mannequin.
Shopping Mall 2.
Shopping Mall 2. All right. With that, this week's episode.
Do I not get the final segment?
I'm sorry, Ryan.
Yes.
The final segment. This is where he's created a video where he's making fun of Carey Price and saying how he's done and how Carey Price is a joke, an absolute joke, just a joke. So I'm really excited to see this video of him crapping on Carey Price before he smeared the floor with his team in a Game 7.
That is not what this is.
You better make a video for yourself next week, buddy.
If you recall from our first couple of episodes, we gave our predictions for the regular season standings in the North Division. And I wanted to do this last pod, but Adam wasn't here, and I wanted all of us here. So the standings are now complete and official. And because I like to make everything a contest, I've gone ahead and ranked our regular season predictions. So this is how I did the scoring. If you guessed a team's ranking dead on, let's say you guessed the Leafs got first place in the North, you got 3 points. If you were one place off, you got 2 points, and it continued all that way to, if you guessed that they got last in the division, you would get -3 points. All right. So here we go. Let me share my screen. How's everyone feeling? Are you
showing
confident?
fourth to one, or just everyone at once?
We're going to go 4th to 1.
Okay.
I'm probably last place. I took the Flames.
Anyone feeling like they got this in the bag?
No, but
Always.
All right. So in last place.
Oh, God.
With 7 points, proving he has no idea what he's talking about.
Uh-oh.
It's Sanjay.
Yeah.
Sanjay,
Thank you,
Johnny,
Calgary.
too much love for your Calgary Flames and Vancouver Canucks, my sir. Maybe you need to watch more games out east a little bit more, I think.
It's a bad time zone. I only stay up late at night, so I only watch them.
All right. In 3rd place with 9 points, Mr. Baron Zeroni. So Baron's biggest mistake, he believed Berkey's hype on the Canadiens, thinking they'd finish first in the division.
That wasn't Berkey's hype. I don't think. Did Berkey
Berkey predicted they'd be first.
My biggest hype was not believing in the Winnipeg Jets.
And not believing the Winnipeg Jets. That was another. None of us picked the Winnipeg Jets.
Although I did get, I was close on Edmonton and Toronto though. So take that. And my team's going. The team I picked number 1's going to the 2nd round. So
there you go.
Can any of you say that?
I cannot.
Nope. All right, so we're going to skip 2nd because it's more fun just to find out who got first place. So 1st place with 13 points, proving that he is the wisest among us.
Oh, God.
Probably Adam.
That his hockey analysis should never be questioned.
It's Belon.
That he should be respected and revered by all of us mere mortals. Willie Weighs in own Adam Williams.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Adam, you nailed the placement of the Canadiens. You got them in 4th, and you were close enough in all the rest of your guesses to take the top prize.
Yes.
And that, of course, leaves me in 2nd. Baron, I tied you in points with 9, but I got the tiebreaker because I had one accurate prediction in the Leafs finishing first.
You got the tiebreaker because you made all the arbitrary
and I made the rules, so I get to pick the tiebreaker.
BS,
and you didn't get any placements guessed 100% correctly, so that's why I gave myself 2nd place.
But you had Calgary as 2nd, and I had Calgary as 4th. So my playoff teams were playoff teams, except for one was near the bottom.
I made the game, so I get to pick the tiebreaker.
Holy,
and that's just the way it goes.
You should demand a new avatar. Your guy looks like he's I don't even know. Like
it looks like Reed Richards from Fantastic Four.
Yeah, your head's pointing in there a little. I don't know, whatever.
You guys,
Adam hates me.
You guys make them.
Nah, whatever. We all know that Adam's
congratulations to Adam on winning the regular season predictions.
I will go out and buy Pauly Shore's Dead.
Yes.
All right. Well, that wraps up this week's episode of Delayed Offside. Like, click, subscribe. Feel free to comment. We enjoy reading your comments, even if they don't get posted. And feel free to reach out to us on Twitter and to Facebook. And ask us questions, things like that. Thanks again for listening. Even though our interest in hockey has died essentially because our teams are out of it, we will still suffer through and pay attention to the league enough that you have something to listen to if you choose to do so. So thanks again for listening. We appreciate you. With that, I'm Baron.
I'm Adam.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Sanjay.
This has been Delayed Offside.
Delayed Offside.